why are you going to ask me? I have no clue about art. And I think that's exactly part of the reason why I wanted to ask you, because we want to interview different target groups, different like market segments of like people. It's pretty wild array of people that exist collecting art and interested in technology, or however you want to frame it. Do you do you still gamble? Like, are you tired of gambling? What's the motivation right now with this like current situation in the market?
Yeah, I think the market is in a place where everyone is crashing out because numbers stopped going up in general. It's not like there's pockets of outperformance. Before it was like a general uptrend, but at the moment it's just pockets of outperformance. So it's very hard for individuals to make easy money. Yes, still gambling. Like I'm also at the mercy of the market. Like if things are going badly, then I'm also losing money. Yeah, very much felt like NFTs were the narrative of last cycle, where people opportunists came and saw a chance to make money, and I'm not sure what that is this time around. Whether it will change, I don't know really.
The, when you say gambler, are you also gamble in DeFi or like invest in DeFi besides Gondi? Because then we know that you're an advisor at Gondi as well.
Yeah, shit coins mostly.
Shitcoins.
Just shit coins, just gambling on shit coins. No, like I'm not really an investor. Yes, I did invest in Gandhi. That's literally it because I'm an early user in the protocol. Yeah, like I mean, I think that's actually facilitated so much of the gambling and borrowing against NFTs, which is reckless stuff. Like, but you see, and the worst part is you can actually see people's wallets and know exactly how leveraged they are. Which is nuts, but it's cool too. Like, yeah, hedge. I mean, some people use it for insurance where they might want to borrow just to, or for tax reasons, or for sell shaming. They might borrow because they don't want to sell, but they'll just let the loan default, and then they can claim like that. Oh, I forgot to repay it, but actually they did. Perhaps for some reason they didn't want to sell it. Maybe that's a bit of a conspiracy of mine, but I think it may have happened.
What's the craziest thing you've seen so far, like combining DeFi and NFT?
I can't think of anything. I mean, the $69 million Beeple sale is nuts, right? Like, that is insane. But that's just price wise. But in terms of insanity, not sure really. Just guys leverage upon leverage upon leverage, where they're like juggling so many moving pieces at the same time, compounding risk, which is fun but risky. Yeah, just seeing that across different wallets, like you realize quickly how reckless people are, and how what might seem by checking someone's Twitter feed might come across as very sophisticated and well thought out and well structured, and then you check the corresponding wallets and their behavior on chain is speaking a total different language to how the tweets come across. That's what I find quite fascinating.
When you say you're a gambler, not an investor, you have zero background in finance.
I did maths in university, but no finance.
Got it.
Like, yeah, I don't know anything. I've never bought a stock. Don't know anything about traditional finance. Yeah.
And when you what was it about Gandhi that got you excited? And what do you think? First, what do you think about Gandhi, and what got you excited about it when you invested into that?
Well, like for example, if I wanted to get a loan from the bank right now, there's all this paperwork involved. Also, what am I going to use as collateral in the first place? I mean, they're going to ask me to leave the place. If I show them a JPEG, there's no way they're going to accept that as collateral for a loan. And I think it was actually Aave which I first used, where I had this like aha moment where I could use like ETH or other assets as collateral, and you don't even need to do KYC, which is nuts. So just by verifying that you own a wallet with certain assets will qualify you for, like, obviously they're over collateralized loans, so it makes sense. There's no real risk on their part versus like an under collateralized loan with a bank or whatever. So that was pretty cool to me. And also with Gandhi, I got to the point where didn't want to sell certain assets, stuck for liquidity for a period of time. And again, yeah, to be able to do that from the comfort of your bedroom with just an internet connection without having to pick up a phone send any emails, provide like pages of documents, just the ease of transaction, I think is still actually quite underappreciated in general. Yeah, that's what got me interested in it. That's why I thought it was cool. And also to lever up, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Gandhi is probably the most interesting NFT project currently in the market, how they're developing. And I think they're going to be our next podcast.
Cool. They've also, like, they're expanding in terms of, like, initially, there was a couple of different lending platforms, and initially, if you took out like a 1-year loan at 15% interest, let's say, even if you repaid early, you would have to still pay the full interest for the duration of the loan. Whereas Gandhi first introduced, like, you could repay early and only repay the accrued interest, which I thought was interesting. So you might take out like a 1-year loan, but you could repay it after, 30 days and only pay the accumulated interest. So like that was, they've always been iterating, I think, faster than competition. And now it seems that like even being able to sell an asset while it's still in an active loan, I think is quite cool. So it feels like for me that what's happening is if people take out loans using Gandhi with the intention of eventually selling, all those sales will happen through Gandhi, because why would you go through the hassle of trying to repay the loan to list the asset somewhere else versus of you can just list it directly while it's still in an active loan on Gandhi. So it feels like a one-way sort of traffic of once an asset is on the platform in an active loan, I feel like it's kind of going to stay there if that person has an intention of selling. Also, the new update where you have the option to pay royalties. I mean, royalties are just like a constantly reoccurring debate, and I think now that having the option to repay them is cool. And I think they've added a broker fee as well, the option of adding like a broker payout, and also the ability to search what is available for sale. But it's very much at the early stages of it. Like the exploration aspect of it is like a lot of work to be done on that still, I think, which was just taking time.
So when you think about Gandhi, I've talked to some people that have this idea that it's going to be, this is a potential that JPEGs and this sort of digital art collecting becomes more institutionalized and professional. That there's not only these crazy, people taking out huge loans. What do you think about like institutions and funds, actually having like really well put together strategies and not just going all out on a crazy, over leveraging themselves?
Well, I mean, the only way I could see these types of people getting involved is if they wanted to provide collateral to earn interest on stable coins. That seems like the most.
Can you explain that a little bit
So for example, like a lot of assets, let's say punks, for example, generally healthy kind of loan to value ratios around, let's say 50%. You can argue back and forth about the duration of the loan. Like people are accepting up to 15, 16, 17, 18, 19% interest. I don't know where you're going to get that interest anywhere else on stable coins. Of course, there is risk. The risk is smart contract risk. Something happens and all your NFTs are gone. And I think the whole NFT market is a big problem if that does happen, right? You can have all the audits in the world, right? I don't think audits mean anything, because if there's a problem, there's a problem. You can get audited by the best firms in the world. Like that doesn't mean anything to me. And I feel like people just use platforms based on recommendations of friends and social trust, not based on auditing code or checkings. Nobody does that. There's like a handful of people in the world that do that, and everybody else just trusts their friends. Maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know, but that seems to be how it works. But you know what I mean? But I think what funds might do is, how I see them potentially using it is if they're sitting on a big ball of money, couple of million, and it's sitting there idle and they want to earn interest on it. That's how I could see them using something like Gandhi. But also, this may not just be for digital art, which I think is just if you believe in the whole meme that everything will be tokenized and like the ownership of in real world assets will be like an NFT that you could borrow against, a house or anything like that. Could be something in a few years' time if it develops. I could see that being like how Gandhi could expand and tackle.
Do you believe in that meme?
I'm not sure. I just find it so hard to tie physical items and digital items. I have no idea. I really don't know. Maybe somebody will think of a solution. I think it might make sense for art, physical art that's like in a warehouse, let's say. You know, like these like free ports where there's like security, and obviously there's going to be a lot more friction involved with stuff like that versus like purely digitally native stuff. Yeah, I really have no idea. But that's how I would see funds potentially onboarding to Gandhi, is just trying to play the safe game by earning interest on stable coins.
It's a lot of heavy lifting. My previous job, I was trying to do some of that at one stage, but it never really worked.
But why is that? Because of like red tape, or?
It's basically because of regulation. You know, all this
Yeah.
paperwork that you need to fill out for banks, and
Yeah, okay.
there's like a whole mountains of paperwork for people who want to issue those traditional assets. So then you get to a point, it's like, why tokenize it if you need the paperwork, the regulation, all of that stuff anyway? At the end of the day, the token doesn't matter. You have to book it with the bank anyway because it's so overregulated.
Yeah, fair enough.
You mentioned, and sorry, I'm like asking the dumb questions here. The smart contract risk when you use like NFT as the collateral, but also you have the underlying asset like pricing risk.
Yeah.
So like, would that be the two main things to kind of simplify?
Yeah, I think I would be more worried about price than smart contract risk, to be honest. Like, I think smart contract risk is a much smaller issue. If that was a problem, like, we're all in trouble. Like, so much of the NFT market is now in active loans on Conti. It's really bad if anything happens there. Price, yes, certainly. But that's why I mentioned punks, for example, because they tend to be less volatile because they're higher supply. But like these, like, I'm sure this happens. There's total fabrication of prices where there's lower supply. There's a collection of a supply of 100. This is total conspiracy talk now, right? If you have an artist with a supply of 100 pieces in a collection, will distribute it amongst, you know, the good collectors who are all in basically agreement that we won't sell below a certain price, and you'll target that you'll only try and, you know, you try and like fish out the weaker people and try and get them to sell, so that you can eventually take out large loans against the assets when it's like, but you don't know how accurate the trading history really is with these lower supply items. So for someone like funds that are coming in and they see somebody wants $100,000 loan against this NFT that they've never heard of by this artist they don't know, like, that's a massive risk, right? And then they look at the trading history of it and they can see, okay, well, you know, a few sold for this price before, but they're not sure how real it is, versus like much higher supply stuff. So there's definitely a trust issue there. And I mean, I would also be skeptical of that with low supply items as well. So there's massive risk in price fluctuation there for sure. And all it really takes, I've noticed recently in, let's say, stuff that'd be higher priced with lower supply, that the price is determined by the most motivated buyer or seller at the time. Like, if somebody's forced to sell, they're selling. And if there's no buyers right now, like, they're just going to get a horrible, horrible execution price. And you're just going to have to deal with it. And then it's almost like cascading where, okay, this just sold at a price much lower than my current active loan. So why would I repay when the value of the NFT is now worth less than the current loan? So there's all these like games you need to consider. And that's why it's very much like financializing art. I'm not sure, Iko, how you feel as an artist if your art is used as collateral for a loan to feed somebody's gambling addiction, or like how do you feel personally about that? Because I know some artists, they don't care, some find great offense to it. I'd actually wonder how artists actually find that whole aspect.
Personally, I'm finding this extremely fascinating.
Yeah.
On the fascination, there is some like fear, because I'm like, I mean, someone is like feeding this kind of potentially addictive behavior, being extremely leveraged. So I kind of feel bad to kind of nurture this kind of behavior in a way, even though I don't feel responsible for it.
Yeah.
The other side, struggling to understand all the ins and outs. I have a background in finance, so that's why I'm thinking, I need to understand this better. So that's why I was asking this question, like, yes, smart contract risk, that's one thing. There's also like the underlying asset price, which is another one. There's be other stuff I'm not thinking about, but I have the willingness to know more. And I think as a digital artist, it's important to be educated about these topics. The third point is I'm wondering if maybe this could be the new gallery model. Seen all these waves of platforms, the NFT booms, which like a good chunk of them like are completely dead right now. It didn't pass through like 3 years mark. We're just replicating like the regular galleries. Then you have like the pure players, maybe, and based on what you said, that now on Gandhi you can also sell the asset as you have as a collateral. So maybe the new gallery model is this. The curation is partly an artistic curation, but also you have a curation from a financial standpoint. As you explained, is it like a 100 pieces collection? I mean, who are the weakest collectors? This should be part of the curation process as well. Bit weird, but that's, yeah, I have like this fascination, fear, and willingness to know more, because maybe we are onto something here where it's a new world to sell digital art, to create it, and maybe the new gallery model should be more inspired by DeFi.
Do you know what I find interesting is we started this, let's say, a few years ago on the belief that it's a whole new world. We're challenging traditional norms, where it's open for everybody. All you need is a wallet address. There's no discrimination based on age, gender, race, anything like that. It's just a wallet address. That was like the premises of like, you know, what was attractive about, let's say, crypto art early. But I feel like all of the elements of what's possible could potentially be used against us, in the sense of what galleries may do is be able to filter collectors based on their trading history or contents of their wallet, and be like, you need to have, you know, we only want people who have a holding time of greater than 1 year, and we can check and verify that and prove it based on, okay, give us your wallet address. Or we only want certain people who own certain assets. And there's like a whole different type of discrimination which could happen. And I actually do see a future where it actually becomes more oppressive because of being able to filter people. And yeah, but again, that's me just, you know, maybe overthinking stuff, but yeah.
Like because you like portray yourself as a gambler, and you have, I think one of your tweets was something like, I hate artists, I like AI art because I hate artists, or something like that, as a joke, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like discriminated? There's some people who are like, oh, this freaking guy is such a, you know,
I don't really think there's discrimination. I mean, there's just I mean, there probably is. Not that I don't feel it personally. So, like, you know, if you don't feel it personally, then you probably just say it doesn't happen. But I'm sure there's people who can say that they've had terrible experiences. So, yeah, just from a personal standpoint, I haven't really noticed it. There's definitely groups, like, you know, the Cabal stuff was like dominating the timeline recently about Cabal. And I think it all depends on what your definition of a Cabal is. I mean, I would say, yeah, there are Cabals, really. Like, there are, but like, is a Cabal just a group chat of mostly lads trying to pump the price of a collection that they all hold together? That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, really. Just mostly men in group chats trying to figure out how to trick people into buying their shit. Yeah. So I don't know. And the whole Gen Art is dead stuff on the timeline as well. Like, that's just, generative art isn't dead, and all people are talking about is fucking price. This whole thing is about the price of their bags, and their bags going down. And this is where this whole like question of, is Gen Art dead? Because we've had this insane bubble where things went outrageously priced, and people thought that like this is a whole new paradigm and this is groundbreaking stuff, and just, yeah, it's just like after 2 or 3 years of just being hit over the head every week with prices continuing to go down, they're like, reality is sinking in, and they're like, when they say Gen Art is dead, what they mean is, I think I might not be able to sell my bags for profit. That's how I see it, really. Like, I think I fucked up, and I potentially and I'm going to lose money. Not the quality of the art, not the concept of it, nothing. That's not the conversation at all. The conversation, I think anyways, is spawned by being down bad in price. Again, it could be wrong, but that's what it feels like. And people in crypto Twitter, like you're an artist with years of experience, like crypto Twitter just sees generative art, in my opinion, as art blocks. Like they think that is generative art. Like they forget about digital art pre NFTs or generative art before NFTs at all. Like it's just like Chromie Squiggles were the first ever generative art to exist of all time. You know, that's how it feels to me. But maybe my timeline is just dominated by crypto gamblers and not like, you know. So I don't know.
I mean, go ahead, John.
It has been the same. I mean, it's 2020, 21. I mean, the history of generative art has been heavily neglected. That's why I wrote like a series of short threads on Twitter about these artists, just to say, hey guys, standing on shoulders of giants here. We have like guys who were here like since the 50s. So I think it's a very wise point. And generative art as a whole was here for digital art, for NFTs, and I'm fairly sure that it will be here to stay for a long time. And yeah, when people say it's dead, meaning that, yeah, I'm down bad, sounds too good.
I'll say another thing. I don't fucking blame anybody, the artists. I don't blame any of the artists at all. They just release their work and at mostly cheap prices too, to be fair, right? And so I'll tell you another thing. I don't even fucking blame people who brought moonbirds for 40 fucking eat. I don't blame Kevin Rose for that. Like you can say like that, right? He may have made mistakes, but like he didn't fucking force you to press the buy button. Like fellas who bought that, like you have to have some sense of self responsibility. You can't be pointing fingers at fellas constantly, like, because nobody forced you. Yes, there may have been some, you know, fabrications or bending of what was, you know, some over-promising and maybe a little bit of under-delivering, but like, you still spent like $120,000 at the time on your pixelated owl, you know. So like I think people need to have a little bit more accountability for their actions than pointing fingers all the time. Fellas love pointing fingers, and generally my experience is I haven't met a bad person really. Like when you see people on Twitter and you meet them in real life, like sometimes it's they're mimicked like exactly what they're like on Twitter, and other people like, you know, very vocal on Twitter, and then they like, you know, you barely get a sentence out of them in real life. But I just think people need to start asking themselves, start looking inward a bit more than pointing fingers of why they're losing money.
So to your story is like, you started as a gambler, and then now you actually, I think the more I learn about you is you come to appreciate the concept of art. Like, and you've made this journey, and you're not the only one. I myself I have no experience in art. No, I had no idea. I literally just worked with George Bach, and George infected me with passion. Now, when you look at your collection, you're like, you have a bag maybe or a side where you're like, okay, this is for, you know, for trading, for finances, because, you know, this is part of your goal. And you have a side where you're like, okay, these are never sells. Or how do you look at it?
I don't have, like, the never sell thing is like, if something happened in the morning some, you know, freak accident happened in the morning and I need money, I'm selling everything I own, like everything, if I have to. So like, I'll never say that I'll never sell, because like situations change. Like, you know, if you're struggling to pay rent, if you're struggling to put food on the table, like there's no more of this never selling mindset at that stage, right? Of course, right? But like there's obviously stuff I would like to hold on to for as long as possible. Ideally, be in a situation where you don't have to sell it, basically. That would be the ideal outcome. But like, I do really like what I collect, and generally for me it's been, and I said this before, it's just stories that I like, or stuff I find interesting. And early on I was aware that I know nothing about art or art history, but that doesn't mean that I still can't have an opinion, or I can still contribute some way or speak. But yeah, I like what I collect, and there's not much more to it than that, really.
I think art and finances both are not that complicated. You clearly, like, you put your head to it and understand a lot. when it comes to between Gandhi, smart contract risk, and art and concepts, and like a lot of the contemporary art I found is extremely superficial, much more than the digital art in in what I experienced.
What you mean by superficial? Like just like pretentious, or just sort of like?
They spin up some superficial story that doesn't really mean anything, or just basically Damien Hirst stands there and sprays a couple dots on a painting and comes up with some crap.
You'd imagine though that this is how you could say that about NFTs too, though, about lots of stuff, right? That like when you just initially look at it, like when you look at punks, right, you just see like pixelated avatars, right? It's like, okay, why the hell are people paying $100,000 for pixelated avatar? It looks like
but
it looks like
punks for me. The token standard that they came up with is massive. The whole wave that they created is massive. They created the whole movement in history. The whole idea of pseudonymous identity is massive. The fact that the minimalism of the artwork is insane to me. They're just a few pixels, and you can relate to each punk. Like there's so many like punks that people can see themselves in.
Yeah,
I think
fair enough. Well, I wonder if somebody make the same argument about Damien Hirst flicking paint onto a wall. I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because I don't know. I'm not in that world.
I don't think so.
Just to give you, I was in New York recently, right? And 0 galleries. I went to 0 galleries. That just shows you, because I knew, why would I want to walk around a room looking at shite on a wall that I don't understand, when I know I'd be rattling with the FOMO. I know my brothers are in the pub and I could be in there with them instead. Like, it's not that I'm just not aware of that world at all. Like, and it's like neglectful on my behalf. I don't know, but it just hasn't appealed to me really. It's just because I live online, basically. I spend so much time online.
What makes you say to an artwork is like, I really want to keep this? Do you think eventually it's going to go parabolic in price again, or the emotional value, or a little bit of both?
I think the parabolic days are over for NFTs.
Forever?
I could be wrong, like, could be totally wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see, like, as in the parabolic, as in, like, you mint something and then a week or two later you sell it at 10x. Like, I don't think that's ever coming back, honestly. Maybe it does, I don't know, but I feel like we're at a unique moment in time where there was a limited supply and a massive amount of buyers, whereas now there's like drops happening every day. There's more like galleries popping up that are savvy about their ability to sell stuff, and like the market is not saturated, but there's just like a consistent supply of stuff to be bought and what feels like a limited supply of buyers. And if the buyers increase in time, I feel like the supply will increase to match it. And to go parabolic will take, perhaps not quite parabolic, but like just a handful of artists or the select few things that will last for the next 10, 20 years. And what they are, I have no idea. But that's how I see it evolving over time, where there's this like concentration of mind share, energy, and like down to the perhaps quality, perhaps there's an element of crime involved. I don't know, but I just think it will narrow down and focus. And I don't think we see a scenario where PFPs, all the art blocks collection, everything on FX Hash, all the ordinals just pump. Like, I just don't think that happens again. No. And I hope I'm wrong. But like, you look at it, the market as it's evolved so far, Bitcoin's at like what, $110,000, and yeah, that's like gone on a solo journey there. ETH is still only at $2,500. I don't know, but yeah, let's see.
In my view, history sort of echoes or repeats itself to a certain degree. Just like with shitcoins, there was the ICO bubble, and then there was meme coin, then there was Doge, and then there was Shiba. And then a few years later, there was fart coin and whatever crap. I mean, I'm the last guy to talk about shit coins, but it's happening over and over again, even though people knew that ICOs didn't work in 2018.
Yeah, and I do like, let's say ICOs, but like I think Aave was an ICO. I think it was ETHLend at the time. Maybe it wasn't an ICO, but there was a handful of ICOs anyway that survived and did well.
Like Tezos.
Yeah. With NFTs, yeah,
No
maybe the
comment.
same thing happens, and then shit coins, same things happens. So yeah, but I just think it'll be a new thing, right? It's not going to be NFTs again.
It's not
It'll be
going to be
like
the same ones.
the exact same. No, it'll be like this content coins or whatever the hell, or something like. It might not be that, but just a new narrative, some sort of Ponzi where people just get carried away for a while. That's how I see it evolving. But like stripping it back, digital ownership is like the thing. The concept of digital ownership is what people need to wrap their heads around, which young people tend to understand. Like I would never, like when I was a young fella, I would never pay to stream a DVD or watch a movie. No way. If I wanted to watch a movie and it cost, $2 or $5 to buy it, no way am I spending that money on a digital item. I'll download every virus onto my laptop to find a free version somewhere online. I am not paying for a digital item. That's a scam. That's how I viewed it at the time as a young fella. Now I'm like thinking of it and I'm like, I spend money all the time on food, transport, whatever, coffee. So I'm like, if I want to watch a movie and it's $5 or whatever, that makes a lot more sense to me now. But buying digital items seemed like a complete scam to me when I was a child or younger, because I was like, there's always a free version you can find. Like you'll find a free version somewhere. Whereas I think kids now with I guess they're forced into that situation with Fortnite and stuff, where they buy skins or they just spend money on digital items loosely. And yeah, so and my parents and stuff, the concept of owning a digital item makes no sense. I mean, the concept of digital ownership in itself is weird, right? Like you talk to collectors and they're like, spoke to a collector recently. I bought this. I have no intention of ever making any money with it. I just bought it because I love it or I enjoy it. And like genuinely, you could right click save it for free. Like what do you want from it? Like really, like if you really ask the question, like if you really just love the art, you can replicate it perfectly, like perfectly to the pixel perfect by just saving it yourself. You do not need to buy it. So why are you buying it? Like, is it to support the artist? Or are you masking the fact that you do want to make money from it? Or do you not even know yourself? And these are questions we all need to ask ourselves. Like, what are we actually buying? And what are we buying it for? If it's for the love of the art alone, it's like, it has to be a little bit more than that. Because if it's just for the love of the art, you do not need to buy it to look at it, to appreciate it. You can make a print of it, whatever. Maybe there's a counter argument to that, I don't know, but these were my thoughts when I was having this conversation. If you're buying something purely for the love of the visual aesthetic or whatever.
You experimented or looked at the Ton blockchain and the Telegram's like NFT environment, because the metrics over there in July 25 are quite insane compared to the like NFT market on ETH or Solana.
No, I haven't. Ton, is it? I don't think I've.
Telegram.
It's the Telegram's blockchain. I'm not like an expert by far in this, but
No, I haven't. I have no experience.
Of May, there was like $34 million in trading volume. That, based on what you just mentioned, like, I think it's be another way to kind of enjoy a digital asset, because it's a very much like a social thing that you can gift it, you can display it as your PFP in a way. So
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it, but I started to see some signal about that, and I was like, oh wow, there's something going on there, and it doesn't feel technical as like an purely NFT, because I would imagine that most Ton users, just like Telegram users, they don't care about the smart contract risk or stuff like this. They just like use it as something fun and social.
Yeah. I haven't looked at it.
Yes, Jean-Jacques, you have one more question, or
Not about what we just discussed.
Okay. Well, one thing that was interesting me is like in your journey, like you, like when you started I know you mentioned that a friend of yours recommended Bitcoin, and like what was that shift like? Like how did you start, or how was that evolvement?
Yeah, sure. So like, yeah, I did maths in university, and I wanted to be a professional athlete. But I was like, okay, I need to figure out how do I, because I wasn't making any money at the time, right? So I needed to try and fund it. So I was doing like, was teaching maths on the side, and I was arbitrage trading horse races mostly. So you know the way you can scrape data from tons of different bookmakers or whatever and get different bookmakers at different prices or whatever. So I was in a position where I was like, yeah, like betting a horse would win with one company and then betting the same horse would lose with a different company. And I did that across like loads of different sports. But when my friend introduced me to Bitcoin, I was like, oh, I wonder could I apply the same strategy across all these different exchanges? You know the way there's like a slightly different price between Binance, Coinbase, Bitpanda, Kraken, whatever. You know, could buy Bitcoin at one exchange, send it to the other exchange and sell it there and just make the difference on the price. And trying to automate that process was a lot more difficult than I expected. And then you've all these fees and like, you know, time it takes to send between exchanges and then settling and stuff like that. But in that process, I was like, okay, I'm going through all this effort to try and make, you know, your 1 or 2% when you can just buy this bullshit ICO private sale and it's immediately trading on public markets at 5 times the price of private sale. So I'm like, why am I killing myself for these 1 or 2% when I can go gambling off the deep end here when the market's hot? And so that's like how basically I got into crypto. Yeah, that's like the onboarding process. And then just once you're on crypto Twitter, like I think curating who you follow is important, because there's pockets of like this is just my own opinion, but there's pockets of people or specific like areas that are like on the cutting edge of the current thing at the time. I would have said 4 or 5 years ago, for me, it felt like CryptoPunks were like the people that were early in terms of like experimentation. Like, but then I realized maybe 2 years ago, like that ship has sailed. It's been gentrified in the sense that these are expensive assets. The only people who can buy them now already have money in the first place. And those that own them already have made money and are kind of comfortable and sitting back a bit and just doing their private fucking deals with their investing and stuff, which is like totally inaccessible to most people. So I'm like, there's no alpha at all or to benefit for me to be following these CryptoPunk people that just bull post their expensive bags and are not on the cutting edge for me at all of new things that are happening. They're just cozy and they've made their money.
But the takeaway is like your number one thing getting into crypto Twitter, or getting into investing in crypto and then getting into collecting art, is basically curating who you follow. I would say that's the takeaway. It's like the number one thing how you learn more.
Yeah.
Can you say that?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and then like there was a period of time where like the miladies were like all over the trenches for shitcoins and stuff, and like they were really like on it for posting what's happening at the moment. Yeah, so like it's just every so often I think it's important. It depends what you're into. If, like for me, obviously that's from like, let's say, a profit maxi mindset where I'm looking for the stuff that's on the cutting edge regularly. But you might just want to be exposed to, let's say you have a passion for art and you just want to see art and talk to artists, then like you don't care about what's happening on the other side of things. But for me personally, like I always felt like I want to know, even with things like a few years ago when Midjourney and ChatGPT first became popular, like I'm like, okay, I want to find like the accounts that are experimenting here are actually using this stuff, because there is no university course ever for the stuff that's on the cutting edge. It's always online, right? It's so you have to be like actively engaging and actively trying to learn, and I find that fun and exciting.
Use any tools or any specific strategies you could share to facilitate this process?
No, it's just feeling. Very much just like, yeah, I'm like, I think this industry is washed. Unfollow. That's how it is. It's just a feeling. There's no like, yeah. And that's the thing, like, you know, you think like, as somebody who has a background in mathematics, you know, I can do all the fundamental analysis We can, we can do a bit of data analysis and get lovely. And this is one thing, I worked for a period of time as a quant trader, but I was terrible, to be honest, because the LPs, right, would want they'd want feedback and lovely graphs and charts and data, and I'd be like, lads, it's crypto markets, like this stuff, like it's so new, and then you have to give your reason why you lost money on Rocket 69 or whatever, and you're like, this isn't going to work, like this just isn't going to work, so like I think you can't be doing fundamental analysis and you can provide your lovely data and analysis stuff, but like really it's just I think there's a lot of it is intuition, really, and just mindset and the balls to hold when you're down and continue to hold, and maybe a little bit of mental illness, I don't know, but it's a lot more than just like, I don't know if you can trade just, maybe there are guys that can do that and they're the best in the world, but for me, I've never ever made a decision really purely based on metrics or analyzing data, despite that probably being my strength. Maybe I do it subconsciously, I don't know, but I'm not sitting down consulting numbers to determine like what's good or bad.
Okay. So you look at your portfolio a little bit with a math background still, like like 10,000 foot view, high level strategy, or not really?
Not really. I mean, I guess I don't really think about it that much, which is probably a bad thing. I should probably sit down and go through what I actually do a stock check. But yeah, maybe I will.
Okay, cool. No, I mean, I'm just interested. Like part of why this interview is so interesting to me is that I want to see Echo and I, when we set out on this journey, we want to see different perspectives. And
yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, I think we want to like bridge to traditional art, or, get the institutions in or whatever. And we're like exploring who are going to be the buyers of your bags, of our bags.
I asked myself that question at the NFT Lisbon.
Sounds stupid, but
of course. Jeez,
you get what I'm saying.
Sure, I looked around the room in Lisbon and I was like, I know everybody in this room, and not a single person here is buying my bags. Like, who is going to buy my bags? Like, it's over. Like, I'm going home. That's how it felt. I was like, yeah, it's over. This industry is over. There's like 30 of us left and we all know each other on a first name basis. Like, it's over. But so in terms of, so I don't know.
You don't think, what is your target? What do you think is you think new people can be washed into this, or new people
I think the only way people is a general bull market for ETH, or people need to make money online somehow in some way, and then so basically it's a hopium scenario because it might not happen. Like how I could see it happening, and the most likely scenario in my mind of how any sort of buyer ever turns up for our bags is if there's a general bull market in crypto, people make money, and then they want to flex that they've made some money on the internet to try and impress a fucking stranger on Twitter. Like that's like trying to signal with status or whatever, and try and gain some sort of credibility. I mean, that's how I see it. I see the trad world coming in. No idea. I know nothing about the trad art world. I don't know anything about it. I have no idea how easy or difficult it is to trick those people into buying our bags. I don't even know if they want to, or if they care, or do they feel massive FOMO from getting their cut of the profit when things went nuts in 2021. Like, are they like, okay, are these the new wealth? Is the new wealth going to be digital, right? With AI being like, is new money going to be all made digitally? And does that new money ever buy art? And if they do they buy digital art, or do they even care? I have no idea. These are like just things I wonder. But I don't know.
Maybe to wrap on like a positive note, but the crypto conference 2013 might have had the same feeling that, oh wow, I know everyone here, nobody is going to buy my bags.
Oh, yeah, but I must say it was really fun. Like, I loved it.
No, of
Like,
course, it's a
yeah.
good one. I'm sure there will be some kind of unexpected macro
I feel like
interest
it takes
driven
like
for other reasons.
one art. I think a single person could also, like, one artist or one new collector could actually just flip everything and just make it cool and sexy again. And, like, they have influence, like, knock a snowball effect where they, like, influence one or two people who will influence one or two more people, and then we're back, baby. But
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, does the PFP stuff come back? I don't know. Like, that's very much just, yeah, token gambling, but who knows? Like, and the thing is, like, I'd never give advice to people as well, because you could ask me the same question in 6 months' time and I'll give you a different answer. Like,
Yeah.
so I really don't know, like, what's gonna happen. But I mean, I'm obviously deep down a permabull and optimistic. Otherwise, I still wouldn't be here, despite all the jokes on Twitter and stuff.
No, I think the main optimism that me and Echo we both share is that the digital ownership.
Yeah,
We're pretty open and flexible to, like, hey, it could come in this form or that form, and we're, like, happy to experiment with on all different sides, even with projects, with podcasts, with artworks, with whatever, with me collecting, or I'm pretty confident that the digital ownership side will work, but I don't know how exactly it will come forward. I don't know what you think,
yeah,
Jean-Jacques, to finish
I
off.
mean, same thing. And as we were discussing about Lisbon, the OpenSea event, and I found it great that they had this kind of small tiles on the tables with the OpenSea ship. Because for me, it was like, yeah, I mean, Eric from Outblocks, this is where he was coming from, like personalized tiles. And so we are experimenting with new stuff. We see more of some of them, less of others. And we are a bunch of very enthusiastic core
Mentally ill.
experimenters also, because we all experiment things, all have this like big vision, as Nick mentioned, about digital ownership. Will take shape. We already come quite a long way if you think about it in not too long amount of time. So we still have a lot of work to do, but I'm really looking forward to see what's going to unfold in the next few years.
And like, when you mentioned Lisbon and the small group and stuff, like, on the timeline recently, people spoke about cabals. I think if you go to events for 2 years, maybe 1 year, you're in the cabal, because you will meet everybody multiple times in different cities. It's a small enough community, and, like, yeah, you're friends with people then, basically. You notice that after going to a few events for a few years, like, it's the same faces all the time. There's some good aspects to that, some kind of like, okay, maybe we need more people, but whatever. It's
Cool.
It revealed the cabal secret, Phantom.
yeah.
Last thing is, why Phantom Scribbler? What is?
Oh, this is kind of stupid, but when I was in school, like, graffitied around the school in toilets or on desks or whatever, it would be like, I am the Phantom Scribbler, would be written. I didn't know who the Phantom Scribbler was. And then I noticed, like, as years went on or whatever, that it was written in different fonts and stuff, and so it was more than one person. It was obviously a couple of people writing, I am the Phantom Scribbler, as, like, graffiti. And I don't know, was it a joke to maybe piss off the teachers or something, where they were, like, trying to find this person, but it was actually just everybody in on a joke, where they were, like, graffitiing around the school or tagging, so no individual was really the Phantom Scribbler. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to adopt that as my name, my pseudonym.
That's cool.
Yeah. But this
art project, actually.
Yeah, the digital identity thing, though, is very, very weird. Like, I nearly had not a mental breakdown, but I was like, what is going on, when I went to my first event? And the way you have, like, your self-worth or your self-value, in your local community, built up over a few years, whatever, and you're kind of, how you feel about yourself, whatever. And then online, like, if you're operating under a pseudonym, it's like a different identity completely, let's say. And then I remember going to the first event and people saying, hello, Phantom, and being introduced to people, and I'm like, holy shit, this person knows nothing about me, or knows nothing about, like, anything I've ever done in life has no impact on this relationship, or how they everything they know and feel about me is based on stuff I post on Twitter, which is very, very weird. And it's like, can you just invent a person? And who am I really? Like, who actually am I? And can you just change who you are and invent a new person? Like, all these things were going through my head, and then it was a very surreal experience. And I'm sure other people have that as well, who, you know, are kind of operate under a pseudonym or whatever. But it was
And
very, very strange.
what was the decision that you go full operating under a pseudonym?
Freedom to ask stupid questions without feeling like an idiot, and also to be able to ask those questions not tied to my in real life identity, where, you know, like, I mean, yeah, you just want to have the freedom to express yourself without feeling like you're being judged or whatever. Which is also a joke, because now you build up a reputation on a pseudonym that was built to have freedom, and all of a sudden you feel like you need to defend yourself, and the cycle begins again.
Yeah, because you built this second personality. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so strange. So I'm going to have to create another fucking pseudonym now and start again.
Because now you have the Phantom Scribbler, can't just collect some shit art and like flip it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this was really fun. Thank you so much.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.